Today I'm thrilled to share a special announcement that'll drop somewhere in this video. I won't spill the beans just yet, but here's a hint. We're adding something exciting to the Ballin universe. Stick around to find out what it is. For now, I'm diving into 3 truly bizarre missing person stories that'll leave you speechless. If you love the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in gripping story format, you're in the right place. That's our specialty, and we drop new content weekly. If that's your vibe, show the like button some love with a fresh ice cream cone, but don't mention the glass shard hidden inside. Also hit subscribe and turn on all notifications so you never miss an upload. Let's dive into these chilling tales. On the afternoon of October 11, 2016, Carlos Herrera, Sr., a middle-aged man, stepped into the visitation area of a Venezuelan prison. The room resembled a high school cafeteria filled with tables and chairs where inmates and visitors met. At one table sat a bedraggled prisoner the man Carlos was there to see. Up close, the inmate looked horrific, emaciated cheekbones protruding bloodied, bruised with bandages wrapping his arm. As Carlos approached, he noticed the guards lining the walls and exits shifting uncomfortably, their unease palpable. The reason for their tension was no secret. For the past month, this prison had been in chaos, locked down after a gang overpowered the guards and seized control. This wasn't a minor disturbance. People died during this brutal takeover. Only in the last few days had the guards regained authority. Carlos knew this not just from news reports, but because his son, Juan Jr., had been serving a year-long sentence for robbery in this very facility. Yet Carlos wasn't here to see Juan Jr. His son had vanished during the riot, and despite Carlos's desperate calls to prison officials, politicians, and anyone who might help, no one could tell him where Juan Jr. was. Finally, Carlos tracked down this prisoner, the beaten man before him, who agreed to share what he knew about Juan Jr.'s fate. Sitting across from the inmate, Carlos wasted no time. "Please tell me what happened to my son. Where is he?" The prisoner didn't immediately answer. Instead, he began talking about another inmate, Doranhel Vargas, a notorious figure in Venezuela, known for a string of brutal murders that landed him in this prison. During the riot, Vargas and his gang had led the uprising, effectively running the prison. While Vargas terrorized and brutalized inmates, causing multiple deaths, he also had to ensure his makeshift regime provided enough food and supplies to keep the inmates alive. Carlos, growing frustrated, interrupted. "Why are you telling me about Vargas? What does this have to do with my son?" The prisoner pointed to the bandage on his arm and his visible injuries. He explained that anyone who defied Vargas during the riot was beaten to within an inch of their life, or worse, killed. Carlos's heart sank. "Is that what happened to Juan Jr.? Was he beaten like you?" The prisoner revealed the horrifying truth. During the riot, Vargas had tapped Juan Jr. to help with a task. Whether Juan Jr. went willingly or was coerced wasn't clear, but defying Vargas meant certain death. Juan Jr.'s task was to help distribute food to the starving inmates as the lockdown had cut off supplies, leaving the prison in a food crisis. But Juan Jr. wasn't sent to find food, he was the food. Vargas and his gang cornered Juan Jr., beat him to death, butchered his body, and fed him to the other inmates. Devastated, Carlos went public, holding a press conference to expose the atrocity. Despite multiple eyewitness accounts, the Venezuelan government denied the cannibalism claims, and no one was held accountable. Doranhel Vargas remains in prison, never charged in connection with Juan Jr.'s disappearance. On August 19, 1962, at around 8:00 p.m., 12-year-old Raimundo Marfa Dilva sat by the fireplace in the main room of his family's tiny shack in rural Brazil. Raimundo lived there with his father Revelino and his 2 younger brothers, who were asleep in their beds just feet away. The family was desperately poor, their 2-room shack consisting of a main room and a kitchen lacking electricity and located in the middle of nowhere. That night, with little to do, Raimundo sat quietly by the fire. His father, Revelino, emerged from the kitchen, sat beside him, and the two shared a peaceful silence, occasionally poking the fire to keep it going, careful not to wake the younger boys. Suddenly, Raimundo heard an odd noise from the kitchen. He turned and saw a dark figure crawling on all fours, swiftly darting out of sight. Terrified, he looked at his father, whose wide eyes confirmed he'd seen it too. Before Raimundo could react, Revelino leapt up, slammed the kitchen door shut, and locked it. The commotion woke the younger brothers, and all 4 stared at each other in fear. Raimundo asked, "What was that?" Revelino, visibly shaken, admitted he didn't know. They had no pets and no one else should have been in the shack. Trying to calm his sons, he said, "It's okay. We're safe here. The door's locked." The family huddled together, listening for more sounds. For a while, the shack was silent, but then voices began emanating from outside. At first, they were garbled, but soon the words became clear. "If Revelino comes out here, we're going to kill him." The boys, now frantic, begged their father for a plan. Revelino, hearing the threat, said this must be a cruel prank. "It's not real. We'll stay put until sunrise, then figure out who's behind this." Trusting their father, the family stayed in the main room barely sleeping until 6:00 a.m. when the sun began to rise. By then, the voices and kitchen noises had stopped. Revelino told his sons, "Stay here." He unlocked the kitchen door, and Raimundo, craning his neck, saw no movement inside. Revelino stepped into the kitchen and closed the door. Minutes later, he returned holding a knife and said, "Just in case, I'm going outside to check. Stay here, I'll be back." The boys nodded, and Revelino walked back into the kitchen, shutting the door. They heard the outside door open and then silence. That was the last time they saw their father. 6 months later, on March 10, 1963, 5 hunters in the wilderness near the shack stumbled upon a large boulder with a deep crevice. One hunter peered inside and discovered a skeleton Revelino's, but the story doesn't end there. On the day Revelino disappeared, Raimundo, defying his father's orders, had opened the kitchen door moments after Revelino stepped outside. He saw the outside door wide open, and his father walking into a massive cloud of yellow smoke. Within the smoke, cylindrical objects spun in a circle, emitting the haze. Raimundo shouted, "Dad, where are you going?" He ran toward his father, but the smoke stung his eyes and the cylinders vanished. When the smoke cleared, Revelino was gone. Raimundo and his brothers alerted authorities, who searched the area but found nothing. The search was abandoned until the skeleton's discovery. To this day, no one knows what happened to Revelino, what the dark figure was, who the voices belonged to, or what the spinning cylinders were. On June 1, 2018, 36-year-old Luis Garcia headed to Mexico City to meet his older brother. The two were inseparable, bonded by a traumatic childhood. At ages 14 and 15, their parents went through a messy divorce. Their father abandoned them, never to be seen again. Soon after, their mother remarried and her new husband moved in. Then their mother vanished. The boys asked their stepfather where she went, but he claimed she went on an errand and never came back. Suspicious as this wasn't like their mother, the boys were further shaken when their stepfather disappeared days later. They contacted police saying, "We think something happened to our mom. We think maybe our stepdad had something to do with it." The investigation found no trace of their mother, stepfather, or father. Orphaned, the brothers survived on their own, searching Mexico City for their mother for nearly 2 decades. That day, they met at their childhood home to clean it up and possibly renovate. Inside, old family photos brought back painful memories. They decided to start renovations, hiring contractors. One day, a contractor shouted for them to come to the master bedroom. The brothers rushed in and saw something on the floor. The contractor explained what it was, and the brothers realized the truth about their mother's fate. Their mother hadn't abandoned them. She was bound, gagged, and stuffed inside the wall of the master bedroom. A contractor's sledgehammer broke through the wall and her skull tumbled out. The skeleton was bound and gagged with scratch marks, suggesting she was alive, trying to get her son's attention. The brothers reported to Mexico City police, who investigated but couldn't solve the case. The stepfather was a suspect but was never found, likely deceased by now. Thanks for watching. Drop a comment below to share your thoughts on today's episode. We've got hundreds of videos ready for you to binge, but if you want my top pick, it's this one right here. Give it a watch, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you.